And if you can't hear anything we're saying, just, raise your hand and start going like this. We want to make sure that you are able to absorb all of the events of the day. I'm going to defer to Commissioner Murphy for some introductory comments.
Thank you, everybody, and I really appreciate everybody coming out today, both to the walk this morning and for this very exciting reintroduction of the turtles here at Butler's Pond. I just want to do a couple of thank yous. I'd like first and foremost to recognize our Mayor Tom Koch, who's with us here today. Without his support for this funding, this project would never happen. Similarly, that funding was approved by the City Council, and we have our City Councilor Chuck Phelan is with us here today. He has a long history of supporting local ponds, including Sailor's Pond further into Ward 5, along with Butler's Pond. So Chuck, thank you for all your support. I appreciate it. Also with us today, I know the District Attorney is running around. We have Michael Morrissey, a long champion of environmental causes in Quincy here today too. So thank you, Michael. Before I turn it over to my staff, I do specifically want to thank you, the people. It was the Friends of Butler's Pond that kept this project alive for years when the funding to do a project of this magnitude wasn't there. It was the time and talents and effort and interest of regular residents and neighbors that got together that ultimately made this happen. That was the interest the government had in working with people, is the neighbors stepped up and said, listen, this is an important part of our community and we want to take part in bringing it back together. So you'll hear from Sheldon, but for those of you that are part of the Friends, I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the work that you put in through the years, and thank you, thank you, thank you. So with that, I want to turn it over to my staff. Julie Sullivan has done an incredible job quarterbacking this project, working with contractors, working with neighbors, shepherding through the permitting process. She's been a tremendous ambassador and asset to the Natural Resources Department. Her position as the environmental scientist has really changed how we do business in the Natural Resources Department. So without further ado, please join me in thanking Julie Sullivan.
Thank you, everyone. I really loved working on this project, and some of you here today, if you didn't join us in the summer when we were originally trapping the turtles, you may be wondering, why are we releasing turtles into the pond? So this pond has been under construction over the course of the past several months as part of a dredging and restoration project. So basically this pond is fed by 32 acres of stormwater, so it's a little mini sub-watershed, and that's the only inlet to this pond. So over years of rainfall just washing into this pond, it brings everything with it because it kind of fills the streets up like a bathtub, and it picks up all the sediments. It might pick up pet waste and the bacteria that comes with it. It might pick up trash. So all those things have been flowing to this pond over the years and really kind of damaging the ecology of the pond. So what we did is we took out a bunch of that nasty sediment. We restored the depth of the pond. And if you look down at that end, there's a stormwater gravel wetland. So that's going to filter all of the pollutants coming in from that end as well. And so this project was years in the making with the Friends of Butler's Pond, and Sheldon Bennett is here today to talk a little bit about that piece.
Thank you, Julie, and welcome everyone. I'm so delighted. All the neighbors and elected officials. It's just a testament to what we can achieve as a community when we all work together. Neighbors, residents, nature lovers, elected officials, everyone. I want to especially welcome and thank Mayor Koch for his leadership and support, and the City Council, Councilor Phelan, who is here with us, who was involved with the pond from the very beginning, when in, I think it was 1993, he helped Mr. John Walsh Jr., who lived right on the other side of the pond, who owned the pond and was single-handedly trying to care for it, but he wished to transfer ownership to the city as a conservation area to preserve as just a lovely natural area and wildlife habitat. And Chuck, it was a complicated process, and Chuck worked hard with Mr. Walsh and the city to make that possible. And over the years, he's been a support to the Friends and on the City Council to help with some of the funding. And I want to acknowledge Commissioner Murphy for his leadership in the Department of Natural Resources and his staff. I'll say more about that in just a minute. Well, today's a great day as we The ceremony in part is, yes, to return the turtles, but how better to celebrate Earth Day, and also we're going to celebrate Arbor Day, which is actually, I guess, next week, although historically it was on the same day as Earth Day, as I understand it.
It would make sense, right?
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, and as Julie was saying, this has been a project over decades, I'll say a little more about that. But last summer, as we were anticipating, beginning the construction work to dredge the pond, we removed as many turtles as we could. It was in the middle of August with some wonderful help from the New England Wildlife Center and other turtle lovers and herpetologists. I'll introduce them in just a moment. They removed the turtles for safe care while the pond was being dredged through the fall and the winter. Those of you who live in the neighborhood witnessed much of that work. The project, as Julie mentioned, we removed some 4,000 cubic yards. Just imagine how many truckloads that is of sediment that had accumulated. And to deepen the pond and to improve the water quality. I think many of you have already noticed, you can already see how the water quality is visually improving. The pond is still settling from all the digging, but it's improving already. And today we celebrate the return of the turtles to their newly restored home and habitat. And we're also going to plant a tree as part of the Arbor Day thing. And again, most of all, we celebrate the power of community, volunteers, local government in partnership together to achieve great things. I want to make a few more introductions. First of all, a couple words about Friends of Butler's Pond. We're a local community organization. We were founded, about 13 years ago in 2009, and that was after a number of community meetings of folks who were concerned about the pond, to work with the city, to raise money and to restore and preserve this lovely area as an asset for the community and as a wildlife habitat. Just a few of our folks: John McConville and Wendy Cheng, Jessica Cohn, Mike Delaney. I know Mike's over here somewhere. There's Mike. Jessica, I know Wendy and John, I think, had to be out of town today. Let's see whom else I'm missing. Tom Scott worked with us, he was a neighbor over here who put together an extensive history of the pond going all the way back to colonial times. And you can read that on our website. And Jim Nichols and so many of you as neighbors who over the years have done pond cleanups, and you've attended more meetings than we can remember, showed up at hearings, and so much more. And now I want to welcome back the folks who helped us remove the turtles last August and who cared for them over the winter. Greg Mertz. Greg, there's Greg. He's the executive director of the New England Wildlife Center. It's a wonderful resource, community resource, mostly volunteers in Weymouth. And they were with us from the beginning last summer with some very good advice. And with their staff, some of their staff are here. Wave your hands, great. Volunteers. They provided a home and care for the turtles over the winter and are here to return them to their home. And Joe Martinez, Joe, he's over here. He's a herpetologist and one of the curators at the Museum of Comparative Zoology at Harvard. And he loves turtles. We were all holding our breath as he and another herpetologist from the North Shore, who couldn't be here today, Rick Roth, were out there in the pond up to their hips in sediment. In fact, we were all holding our breath, I think they were too, as we trapped the turtles. It was over a course of several days. And I mentioned Rick Roth, executive director of Cape Ann Vernal Pond Team, known to locals as the Steak Man. He's really good with turtles too, and we almost lost him in the mud. He has stories. He has stories to tell about that. I think Joe helped haul him out. Let's see. There, with some other volunteers, turtle lovers, Jonathan Ganser. Are you here, Jonathan? Right. You were the one. You were really great. You were the you were the one that really raised our consciousness about what we needed to do to protect the turtles, and that's great. And he was out here helping trap them too, and others, so many others. Well, just a couple more words by way of background. I mentioned about the pond being donated to the city in 1993. However, the pond by that time was already deteriorating, and despite the good efforts by staff at the city's Department of Public Works to manage the pond with very limited resources, the pond by the early 2000s was in a serious state of deterioration. The pond was, as Julie said, was filled with sediment from storm runoff and leaves and decaying vegetation. The pond was choked with Phragmites reeds, invasive weeds, covered with algae scum. It smelled bad in the summer and was a dump for shopping carts and old tires and all sorts of stuff. And so after a number of meetings with the city, with our local city councilor, Doug Goutreau at that time, we formed the Friends of Butler's Pond as a neighborhood association or organization, and we worked with the city over the years and through hundreds of volunteer hours by many neighbors. Many of you are here today with support from DPW and the Parks Department. Paul Doherty is here, and Community Preservation Committee provided us with funding through a number of grants to clear out the Phragmites, thin the trees, do some environmental ecological engineering studies to figure out what needed to be done. It was just a long project. But we knew from the beginning that the final thing was we needed to remove the sediment. Otherwise the pond would just continue deteriorating. And so that is what we're here to celebrate with a grant appropriation from the City Council last year of $1.4 million with strong support from Mayor Koch. We had the funding, and through the newly established Department of Natural Resources, again thanks to Mayor Koch for his vision on seeing the necessity of that to provide some overall coordination of all the different and care for all the different many wildlife and wetland areas we have here in the city, one of our treasures as a city, through their leadership. And one of the great things they did was hire Julie Sullivan, environmental scientist. She's really the hero.
Oh, nice.
Julie is the hero. Anyway, we did all that. And then finally, I know we're all anxious to get on to the important things here. But again, I just want to emphasize the excess that we can achieve when caring neighbors and citizens work together with our elected officials and our city councilors and our department staff to figure out ways to get funding from various sources and work together to improve and care for our various natural assets and so many other things in the city. It just it shows the power of community to achieve great things when at first they may seem daunting and even impossible. And here we are to celebrate a great achievement. And so most of all, I just want to thank all of you who are here and some of you who couldn't be here, neighbors, volunteers, again for your hundreds of hours of volunteer work and attending meetings, hearings, and so forth. And let's see, I want to thank a few councilors who aren't here: David McCarthy, Noel DeBona, Margaret LaForest, former councilor of this ward, again Doug Goutreau, Chuck Phelan, Noel DeBona, for their support over the years. And also I just want to thank our project team. It was a great team. Jason Gold, engineer, and his staff from ESS Group, I think it's now TR Companies, something like that. Anyway, they were great. The contractor, I have to tell you about the contractor, Luciano Excavation, Mike Rose, John, the whole crew. This was a tough job. They encountered many challenges and unanticipated surprises. They said it was one of the toughest jobs they've done. They met the challenge. They had to change their game plan several times. They nearly lost a big piece of equipment in the mud. They were able to get it out. Anyway, they did a great job. And finally, I know you want to get to the turtles. I'm going to turn this over to Julie, but I just want to say, Julie, this was her She was the project manager for this over the last couple of years, worked with our organization. And this is her first, I think it's her first big project for the city.
Correct.
And I want to tell you, I understand that this project, as big and as complicated as it was, I understand it's coming in under budget. Can you imagine that? And I have to say, Julie, through her resourcefulness, was part of that. And the contractor too. It was a project team. So we have a little extra money we're going to use to, part of it we're going to use to restore the vegetation on the banks and do a few other things. That's great. And anyway, Julie did a truly outstanding and just a remarkable job. And we're deeply appreciative to her. She's our hero.
Aww.
And anyway, let's give everybody a hand, and Julie in particular.
Thanks, Sheldon.
And all of you as neighbors, you're part of this too. Without you, this couldn't have happened. At this point, I'm going to stop talking. You can applaud that too. And turn it over to Julie.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Sheldon, and for giving such important background on this project. The first day I started with the city in 2019, there was a large, I'm not even joking, like this thick notebook of work that the Friends of Butler's Pond had done previously that kind of led this project up to this point. And I've been reading that and working on it since my first day here, and I cannot believe that we are now on the tail end of this, not to make a turtle pun or anything. So teamwork really does make the dream work, and I really want to highlight our turtle team today because they really took a massive undertaking taking care of these turtles and taking very good care of these turtles. In fact, they look great. Some of them have even gotten bigger since the last time I've seen them. So we couldn't have done any of this without the New England Wildlife Center and the New England Herpetological Society, who were brave enough to help us trap these turtles and care for these turtles. And they're the best. They're really the best. So without further ado, I would now like to turn it over to our turtle team to show you some cool turtle artifacts, talk about our little friends here, and then we'll be releasing them back to their home at Butler's Pond.
All right, well that'll be me.
Yep.
So hi, Joe Martinez again, everyone. Rick Roth, who's with the Cape Van Vernal Pond team, can't be here today. He's doing a program for them. But he and I came in, set up hoop traps, caught the turtles, gave them to Greg, and it all started really, John Gansel. I have to give him credit again. He contacted me, I contacted Rick, and it just sort of went down the line there. So, there are 3 turtles. When you're around Butler's Pond and you see stuff out and about, there'll be 3 different types of turtles you might see. One, Greg has, it's called a painted turtle. You can hold that up in the air. It's called a painted turtle because it's got red on the sides of the shell. Kind of looks like someone painted it there. They don't get much bigger than that. And they're also called a sun turtle because there's the ones that you'll always see out sunning. We have a painted turtle sunning on a tiny little rock that's sticking out over there on the pond. If they're not on rocks or logs, they'll be on the shoreline there. So that's the most common one that you'll see here. The next one that you'll see out sunning is called a red-eared slider. And they get bigger than painted turtles, but they have the same basic shell shape. But if you look at them through binoculars, you'll see kind of a reddish stripe on the side of their head, and that's where they get the name red-eared slider. They are from the Mississippi River Basin, and they're the ones that, for the older people here, years ago when you could buy little baby turtles with the plastic ramp and the little bamboo tree and everything, that's what they were. They brought them up north, sold them in pet stores. They would get bigger, people would release them. So there are now populations that have established themselves, but they are an introduced species. Technically, they shouldn't be here. But they're everywhere, and there was actually one sunning with the painted turtle just a little while ago that we saw. Then the third turtle that you'll see here is the biggest one, but because it really doesn't come out in sun very often, you don't notice it, and those are the snapping turtles. And I have a young one here, where there's a bigger one we've got that we'll release later. And notice that I hold it from the rear. They actually are a pretty benign turtle. If you don't bother them, they don't bother you. And you can be in the water with a big snapper and it's not going to come after you or anything. If you grab it and try to move it, it is going to get upset, understandably so. So this is a young one, maybe 5 years old. When they first hatch, this one you can't hold. We'll give you a chance for the kids here. We'll let some of the kids release some of the turtles. And at the end of it, if people want to look at some of the artifacts I brought in closer detail, you can do that. But when a snapping turtle hatches, it's only about 1 inch long. This is a young one that was found dead in a nest. I've preserved it. But you can see that they're very, very tiny. And people who live around here that I've spoken with, snappers come out, lay their eggs here, make their nests, and the babies hatch out. And people around here by the pond have actually seen ones about this size working their way down into the water. Now that's when it's just hatched. We saw one that was 5 years old. When they get really big, this one was probably about 40 years old. So this is as large as they get, a little bigger than this, but this is the top part of the shell. And I just want to give you a very quick note on turtle anatomy. If you look at the underside of the shell, you will see that it's all bone, for one. Another thing is that these bones coming down the middle here, any ideas? Especially the kids, do you know what these are? The spine, right. So this is the vertebral column. And what comes off of your spine on both sides? Ribs, exactly. So a turtle shell is actually ribs that come out and expand and fuse together. So when you're looking at a turtle, it's really the only vertebrate where the rib cage is on the outside of the body. So the bone is the white part. There's a covering on top of the shell, and that is made up of the same material in your fingernails and in your hair. It's called keratin. And these pieces grow on the shell on top, and that's what forms the outer protection there. I brought one other box turtle shell. And so this is a box turtle, not found around here, but it's found nearby. It's native to Massachusetts. So you can see again, that's the bone. And then these individual parts are called scutes, spelled S-C-U-T-E-S. And those cover the bone on top there. So the turtles do actually shed the outer part of these on occasion, but that's basically what's going on with the turtle. And there's the shell on the top and the bottom shell underneath. So at this point, I think we can go ahead and get started with the turtle releases. We're going to do them in a couple of different spots.
I can go grab one.
Okay.
I think you and that one are bonded.
We're bonded.
Do you think that is female?
I do think it's fair.
Maybe you ask Julie if you could maybe stand up.
There's a couple of times where we almost needed a rescue. Yeah.
Curious,
When they were at the wildlife center, they said they'll send me all that data.
I'm really curious if that's like, with all the dogs.
Right. Yeah. This actually, the pond wasn't so bad for E. coli, which is like the main marker of pet waste pollution.
Oh, that's good. One.
It's number one actually. Weirdly enough. Here you go. Gonna take a picture while I'm holding it. There we go. You guys are good.
Cool.
All right.
All
I'm gonna
right.
go grab some more. I'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Can we just go down and? Yay! All right, you got your turtle. Okay, friend. Go home. Wow. Oh, wow, that's so neat.
Happy.
That's really cool.
Yeah, he's coming back.
Aw,
Is that 6 or a 9?
I think it's 6.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
He's probably like, where am I?
I remember this.
Wow. Now he's just hanging out.
All right, hey, thank you very much for coming out today. My name's Chris Hayward. I'm the tree warden for the city. We're kind of like hopping on each other here, environmental science and arboriculture. celebrating Earth Day yesterday, and in Massachusetts, Arbor Day is actually the last Friday in the month of April. And I was thinking about it when someone mentioned over there earlier that it used to be the same day. Well, hey, how about a little tree love too, you know? I mean, you know, Earth gets a love. How about some trees too, right? We decorate the Earth, so give us our own day. So it was like 1872 that Arbor Day was actually created into a national holiday. And every state has an Arbor Day, but it's on a different day, depending on the climate, depending on the range, wherever you're at. So you can look it up, get a National Arbor Day calendar, and it'll tell you where these Arbor Days are. They're all over the place. It's pretty good stuff. So we're here to promote the planting of trees and the proper way to plant a tree. So we chose this little tree as part of the Butler Pond project. That more plantings, I believe, Julie, are going to be going in eventually.
Yes, correct. They
Yeah.
were on their way from New Jersey because this spring, for some reason, everybody wanted to order everything. So a little bit of a delay, but we'll have a lot of really nice mixed vegetation along the edges, and it's going to look fantastic.
So we went out and purchased this particular tree here to just really promote the kickoff of spring, the kickoff of getting back to this beautiful pond in this location. So I just wanted to kind of say a little bit about how to plant a tree. If you go out and buy a tree at a nursery, what you're supposed to be looking for. So this is just a little hawthorn tree. This tree can get up to about 18 feet tall. Can get to about maybe 15 feet wide. It's going to have a nice white flower in the spring. It's thornless, and we chose that because we are in an urban environment. We want people to gather along the edge of the pond. Hawthorns can actually have big thorns. That's why they're named that. So this particular tree is bred to not have any. It's crossbred to not have any thorns. So it'll have the nice white flower, nice crown, good color. It's a perfect tree for this location up above the water zone. When you look at the tree, you go into the nursery, sometimes you'll see these on, it depends where you get it. This is just a little mat just to keep, it's almost like a manufactured mulch just to keep the moisture in the root ball. So you're looking at this tree and you're saying, well, all right, now what do I do? Do I just like dump it over, plop it out? Not necessarily. You want to like actually kind of give it a little bit of a cut. So I have a little tool here. Be careful when you're using this. It's just a little blade, and you just kind of want to slice the box, the pot a little bit, the container just a little bit, so you can kind of rip it open. And just be careful because even the plastic will be a little bit sharp. So what we're looking for here, once we open this all up, we want to check out the roots on the sides of the tree. A lot of times when these are in the containers like this, they've been in the container for a while. So they get a situation called girdling roots. And I'll show you exactly what I mean when I get this open here. All right. So what happens here is the tree is always growing. It's always doing what it can, and you can see it's got buds on it. So you see these roots, they're just growing around in a circle. So if I just put this in the ground like that, you can understand the roots are just going to continue to grow around in a circle, and as this tree gets bigger, it basically strangles itself. So you really want to kind of loosen up this ball a little bit. We want to check it all out. Another thing, that when a tree comes from a nursery, it's dug with a spade, and a lot of the material will come over and flip over on the top. And it'll happen over and over and over again. So you really want to start to clean off the top and look for a root flare. It's where the tree is going into the root ball and it has a little bit of a flare and it gets a little wider. So if anybody can see that right there, and this is actually pretty deep. There's been a lot of material brought up on this. This is actually a graft wound right here. This is where, to get this tree to be thornless, it's a root ball of one type of hawthorn and then a sprout of another type of hawthorn. When they bring them together, those genetics create it so that there won't be a thorn on the tree. So that's where this graft mark was. This is two trees that were brought together. So we're looking for the root flare, and see, it actually goes really down in there. And this is the problem. A lot of people just get a tree and they just plant it in the ground and they don't know what's going on, and then the tree dies 3 years later and they're like, what did I do? I've been watering it all the time. So this is a nice deep dig that right out. So there it is. I'm starting to see a little bit of a flare here now. And you'll see roots growing up here. And again, these roots will just continue to get bigger and just wrap right around the tree. This is, we're lucky here that this is a really nice soil. The soil that we're planting in, it's urban fill kind of soil. It's definitely disturbed. It's a little sandy, it's a little gritty. I did bring some loam that we use for some of our planting, so I'll throw that in the pit. So once we've established where our root flare is, and we're looking to see all these girdled roots, just kind of want to spruce it up a little bit. Just kind of give it a little, look for sometimes there's some string in here that they held the ball together in the past. Kind of want to get that all loosened up. Sometimes also, make sure I didn't wear a glove in this hand, but wear a glove sometimes. Just in our world, broken glass everywhere. It's you'd be surprised where you find broken glass. Take some of this old material, the material that the tree had on it, throw that in the pit. So this looks actually pretty good here. So now when you dig a pit for a tree, you want to go about 2/3 the size of the root ball, a little bit bigger. In this case, it's pretty loose soil. I actually dug this hole yesterday just to loosen it all up. Don't mind if there's rocks in there. Rocks actually help the roots to spread, keeps pores in the soil so the roots will move around. So it's not a bad thing. The other thing is, don't get in the hole and tamp it down and make it solid on the bottom. You'd rather plant the tree a little higher, have the soil just a little bit more loose so those roots do have a chance to spread. If you make it compacted down below, it's going to be tougher for that tree to spread its roots. So we can just get down in here, just kind of spread it out a little bit. And a lot of times, what you can do is you can take your shovel, just try to figure out where the root flare is. So you see what the depth is, so I'm a little bit low. So we'll just take, yeah, there you go. Take that. Take some of this good loam that I got from down at our park department. Put that in there.
Is that made out of the leaves that we take for you?
What's that now?
Is that loam from the leaves that the residents say?
I don't believe it is, to tell you the truth. I don't think that we create our own compost here in the Quincy. So we got that. See, so that's a little bit better right there. That's going to be a good height for it. One of the other things I like to do, this is just something that I've been trained to do over the years, is put a little bit of mulch, a little bit of peat moss. I got one more of these tablets here. A little bit of peat moss around here. It's just kind of like, I think of it as like vitamins. It's a little bit extra organic for the tree to get the roots going. So we'll just kind of get a little bit of that in there. Again, try to keep that root flare as clear as you can. And then I just have a slow release fertilizer. Again, just a couple little vitamins, protein drink for a tree. Everybody needs a little kick me up, right? Everybody needs a little help every now and then. So then I have a rake here. And we'll just rake some of this material back in. Not too much yet, because I do want to add a little bit of water. I just want to kind of set it. So I brought a little bit of water, so we're just going to pop it on top there. Another thing I don't want to see people doing is tamping the tree down in there. So once you've got that in there, you don't want to come and slap the soil on there. You'd rather have the water pull that soil down. You're still going to have pore spaces. You're not going to have compacted soil. Wait till that goes down a little bit. Bring a little bit more soil in. Again, don't mind the rocks. Rocks are fine. just like to kind of smooth it out with my hand, make a little bit of a bowl, water it again. Let that sink in. So you just basically making it like a layer cake. Water, soil, water, soil. Making sure always to keep that roof layer clear. I took a bunch of soil science classes and my soil professor loved doing this, loved it. That guy could tell, he would get anybody addicted to what soil actually is. Soil is not dirt, it's life. So what I like to do is make like this little bowl. It just kind of helps it in rainstorms. It'll actually collect the water a little bit. So now we've got that. Make sure the tree looks pretty straight. I didn't bother to get stakes for this tree. It's kind of tiny. It's not really on a sidewalk. It's not, and we're not going to be plowing snow anytime, hopefully soon. Now when we mulch this, I don't want a lot of mulch getting right up close to the tree.
Chris, that's a mistake a lot of people make. You see that around. People pile it up.
Absolutely. Yeah, they call them mulch volcanoes. Yeah, don't ever do that. You're wasting your money. So what you want to do is just go right out around it. Keep it away. Actually, you can even leave just a little bit of soil right there. The mulch is used for a couple different things. It's to insulate the soil. It's to keep moisture in the soil. It also keeps weeds down. One of the things people like to do after they plant a tree is, hey, let's go plant some flowers under the base of the tree. What happens with the flower? What happens with the tree? The flower is growing so much faster than the tree that it actually robs the tree of nutrients. So let the tree do its thing first. Then come in and plant the flowers later. Plant them a little further away, not right under the root ball. Keep that nice and clear. And you just spread that out. And that's really what we got to do, plant a tree. And I'll clean up the rest of this mess later. You don't need to watch me cleaning it up, but that's really what it's all about. Plant a tree.
How much water does it need?
About 5 to 10 gallons a week in the growing season. And especially where this is a newer tree, that's probably what you want to do right here.
So it's going to rain a lot this week, but...
So if it's going to rain a lot this week, basically the key is, and I can't show you with this hand now, it's very dirty. You want to go into the soil and just, if you stick your finger in there and it comes up and it's a little bit just stained, you've got enough moisture in your soil. When it gets in there and it's dry, you pull it on, it's just dusty. Yeah, 5 to 10 gallons. Let nice and slow soak. Don't just dump it on. More often than not, it's just going to run off. So just nice slow soak. I tell people, people talk to me about the bags and the trees. I'm not really the biggest fan of the bags. We've done some studies in-house in my tree warden association that will pour the water on there, then the sun's beating on that water all day. It takes about 48 hours for that bag to empty. Well, the water's heating up inside there, which heats up the trunk, which causes condensation and moisture around the trunk, which allows for bugs, insects, decay, bacteria to collect around the trunk. You go to take the bag off and maybe you make a little gash, someone hits it too close to the weed whacker, and now you've got that decay and the stuff already growing on the tree, and then you got a big wound on the tree and you can't figure out where that came from. So I'm not a big fan of the bag. What I've been trying to say is go with your little 2-gallon pot and just water your tree. Say hi to your neighbor, water your tree a little bit more, close your eyes, give it a good positive thought, water it a little bit more, and that's it. That's really how you plant the tree. So hopefully this little guy will do as well as it can someday. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We want to thank Chris because unfortunately he's leaving us. We only had him a short time. He's moving on to bigger and better things, but he certainly made an impact in his short time being with us. Hopefully we can find, and he's going to help us find a
a good replacement. So Chris, thank you for your service.
I really liked working for Quincy an awful lot. I really did, and I appreciate everybody that I got to know, and I've had a lot of great conversations with a lot of really great people. And I only live in Braintree, so I won't be far away. Come out to a Braintree Conservation Commission meeting one night. We'll have a debate. I also have some seedlings that I'd like to pass out. And whoever wants a seedling, it's a little Fraser fir. You can start this off in a pot. You can put it in your backyard. Now keep in mind it's going to get a little bit big, so wherever you put it, make sure it's in a proper spot. If you can't, then just talk to your local tree warden or talk to somebody that knows where we could probably plant these in a park or something. There's evergreens growing up all over the place. Who knows who planted them? Maybe it was a person, maybe it was a squirrel, who knows? But this is not a bad thing to have on a day like today, so just maybe give it to someone as a gift. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone got one. And this is thanks to the Parks Department in the city of Quincy. So you guys all paid for this. So there you go. So if anybody wants one, just come on up and I'll hand you one.